Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to The Spot. My name is Kareem Prim. Got my co-host Damian Ware.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Spot.
Absolutely. Haven't been in here in a minute. You know what I'm saying? Everything kind of that Cooler Bandit episode kind of was. We kind of went in on that Cooler Bandit episode. That was heavy. Good deal. Shout out to Donovan for coming by and give us some information on that. Anybody who missed that episode, man, go back and check it out. As a matter of fact, like, comment, subscribe, share the channel. We doing what we can in order to be able to get this thing out, get some interesting guests in, deal with a wide range of topics. And this brings us to, man, we got 2024 coming up, the presidential election in 2024.
Coming fast.
Figure we'll take some time out, do a preview on the 2024 election. So, Trump Watch. What we call it. Got to get your boy 45, man. This dude will not go away.
I mean, look, you look at the landscape, it don't seem like it's a reason for him to really go away.
It's crazy because, okay, so let's just give a base of where we going. We got Trump Watch, jail or no jail, just like the show Deal or No Deal. we gonna play jail or no jail for this cat, man. They got some serious charges on him.
Right.
We want to touch base on Larry Elder, Black conservatives.
Yep.
Interesting thing that's popping up among African Americans in the country. When you look at the party, you remember how the Tea Party was in the Republican Party?
When that phenomenon.
Yeah, it was like a party within the party, a movement within the party.
Yeah.
And I think that this black conservatism, right? I think that's kind of like almost like a movement within the Republican Party that's not necessarily connected to Trump necessarily,
right?
But that's kind of going to live beyond Trump and continue to grow beyond Trump. So we want to talk a little bit about that.
Definitely.
We don't have the Democrats yet, but we got the front runners in the Republican Party.
Right.
Just had the debate and everything the other day, so we want to touch base on that. Man, what's going on with your boy Mitch McConnell, man?
Hey, man, Mitch, man, you know, you look across the landscape of the government, man, the politicians, man, it's time for some cats to go home. Starting with Mitch, man. Your boy Mitch McConnell out here, man. Your boy on the camera, man, doing the freeze up like
Twice
2 times in a
days.
row, man.
Twice in 30 days.
What's up with that?
It seemed like there's some type of neurological pause
it's something
that's
serious.
happening. It's something serious. It's almost like it's not worth. I think that they should have like a age limit on service for people. It's understandable that you want to serve the country and that type of thing, but they gotta start imposing some age limits. Put these cats into like a more of a mentorship, counsel type level to where we can still be able to benefit off of their experience and their knowledge and that type of thing. But man, to be able to have them and be the shoulders, the weight of everything on their shoulders at that age, not really something that
they shouldn't be out front.
No, shouldn't be out front. And where's the young cats, man? Where's the next generation? There's got to be some cats that's coming to pick the baton up.
It is, man. So I see, I mean, on both sides, typically they you know, you've seen like the Democrats, you know, you start out, you had Joe Obama's, you know, you had your boy Pete, you had quite a few of these cats that, you know, was making headway and they was out front. Now I'm seeing in the Republican Party, you got, you know, of course you got your cats that's still around, like your Mike Pence's, who was the vice president. But then you coming across the line with these cats like Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott. And your boy Vivek Ramaswamy. What's up? You checked him out?
I didn't check him out. We'll get into him. Fireball now. So Trump 2.0, like, but is he too young? We'll get into Vivek Ramaswamy. We'll get into him a little bit, and then we're going to finish it up with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That ticket is what the Democratic Party is kind of putting out there. They don't really seem to be bringing in anybody off the bench to relieve them. So we'll see. Can they win again? That's really what we want to ask. But okay, so your boy Trump and 18 co-defendants charged with felony racketeering and conspiracy charges, man, in the state of Georgia. What's going on with that? What's your thoughts on it?
We got RICO. Now,
RICO charges.
RICO charges. As far as like from what I know in regards to the headlines, what you got Trump indicted now on 6 different cases.
6 different cases.
And then the Georgia one where you got the RICO. Now typically, and we can go get into this a little bit. When you hear RICO charges, especially amongst the black community,
right?
We got experience where you've heard of different RICO charges and different kind of cases, but now you got the RICO charges here on the political playing field, and cats automatically think that it's very similar, 99% chance that you out of here,
right,
with the RICO charge. What's your thought on that? Because I know you said you had kind of looked into that.
The RICO charges, man, is like, okay, the RICO was something that they put together, is designed to create accountability for corrupt networks. So if you got like organized crime,
right,
usually we had seen it when it came to gangsters and mafia and stuff like that, when they was trying to really make it seem like you was accountable for a whole range of just crime. I'm just going to I got a whole organization. It's got more to do with, it's not just you doing the crime, but you running a whole organization that's connected to it. So I got a definition here about Racketeer Influence and Corruption Organizations Act. That's what RICO stands for.
Right.
The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's federal and state on both levels. It can be on federal and state. And like I said, it was designed to create accountability for corrupt networks and criminal enterprises. It was passed in October 1970. Okay, so it's often used with mobs and cartels, but this grand jury indictment that they got right here, which they got Trump listed on 13 of the charges, is followed by a 2.5 year investigation from this sister down in Atlanta, District Attorney Fannie Willis.
Yep.
Now you might remember her. She's the one, she took office in 2021 and she's the one that bought the whole Young Thug case. She's the one that's pushing the RICO charges on Young Thug. So this is almost kind of like her little go-to. She didn't pull RICO on like 4 different people. The interesting thing is that in RICO in the state of Georgia, this is going to get a little technical, but I think it'll really help people as far as their understanding of why is it necessary to bring this thing in order to secure a conviction on Trump, and why do it in Florida? Because this dude got cases, man. He in New York. You know what I'm saying? It's all of Florida, is Washington. It's cases that he got that's all over the place. But that one in Georgia, it seemed like that's the one that they putting their money behind, and the reason is that the RICO statutes is considered more broad in scope. It's like it's more the net of what you can convict somebody on is wider in its wider cast, but it's a specific part of it that they done added to it in Georgia that kind of looks like it might have your boy Trump in trouble, right? So I say in Georgia, prosecutors are able to point to a range of organized or related attempts to engage, check this out, in predicate act or predicate crimes, which include everything from violent crimes such as murder and arson to false statements and obstruction of justice. So just making false statements. Now, we talked about predicate acts or predicate crimes. Let me tell you exactly what that means. A predicate offense is an illegal activity that is the foundation or first crime in a chain of other crimes. Okay, so when you add false statements and obstruction of justice, you only saying that this dude said something that was the first statement that could lead to other things that happen that cause a crime to happen. What are they saying what the crime is? Which was to overturn the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. So the indictment points to a number of false claims.
Right.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
Misleading statements, false statements. They saying that the indictment points to a number of false claims made by Trump about the election in Georgia to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and 2 other state officials during a January 2nd, 2021 phone call, including that nearly 5,000 dead people voted in the November presidential election. So when he said over there was dead people that voted, it's like that's just something that it sounded like he was just gaslighting. But to them, that's evidence, because all you need is 2 situations where he lied in order to achieve that same act of overturning the election. Okay, so they say 1, dead people voted in the November election. Hundreds of thousands of ballots had been dumped into Fulton County. In other words, these mail-in ballots came from everywhere out of nowhere.
Right.
That's number 2.
Okay.
In adjacent counties, and that Trump won the presidential election in the state by 400,000 votes. He said all 3 of those things on that call. They saying all you need is 2 lies that would have convinced that person to go back and redo those votes or try to overturn that election. They saying, according to the indictment, by knowingly, willingly, and unlawfully making false statements and representations of the to those state officials, Trump committed a felony offense, and he could be convicted of RICO charges in the state of Georgia.
Based on that information, based on a
that
couple
phone
allegations
call.
on that
stuff
phone
that he
call.
said in that phone call. They're saying that that's enough in the state of Georgia. Now, in any other state on a federal level, wouldn't stand a chance. And everybody is looking at it from the federal stands, because you got to be wiretapping phones, you have to be money laundering, you have to be doing a lot of stuff on the federal level in order to be able to get a conviction. In Georgia,
not so.
Tell 2 or more lies that lead to overturning that election or getting them numbers flipped, and you can be convicted of RICO charges in the state of Georgia.
Wow, so this sister in Georgia, basically it's the same sister that's got the situation going on with your boy.
The district attorney, Fulton County district attorney.
DA, So she done found a loophole in Georgia legislation and slid your boy Trump down in there. And then we talking about a couple allegations of voter fraud, right?
Yeah, because he's saying it as if it's fact.
Okay.
And they're saying, you know that this information was false when you were saying it. It's one thing to be given information that you believe is true, but then he would have to go back and show where he got reports from his intelligence that showed him. In other words, they saying, show your hand of the people that gave you this information, we'll take it off of you and we'll put it on them for giving you false information. But if you insist on saying that you ain't telling where you got the information from, and you telling him this information, you telling these state reps the information so that they can take action, we're saying, you done.
That's RICO.
That's RICO. We're gonna convict you of it. We're gonna stick a fork in you right now.
Right, because I seen him trashing your boy Bill Barr. About non-investigation into the election fraud.
Yeah, he needed some people to confirm some of the stuff that he was telling everybody. He needed somebody to be able to step up. But Bill Barr was like, man, I'm not saying that, dude. You ain't about to get some Bill Barr. Bill Barr, he was an old school head. He worked for Herbert Walker Bush, right? He was the Attorney General for, he's been around for a while. And he know all, you're talking about constitutional law, you're talking about the Justice Department. That's serious stuff.
It's a lot of layers,
And like they say, serious charges require serious evidence.
And you talking about a veteran, Bill Barr, veteran in Washington, veteran in legislation and government. He understands how much facts and how much data you're gonna have to have in order to back up these claims. He don't want no parts of that.
No. You're talking about having to go before Congress, go before the Senate, and actually back up what you're saying. And Trump don't mind throwing cats up under the bus. You know what I'm saying? He'll use you, send you to jail. He on to the next. He didn't forgot about you. He on to the next cat that he using to try to get his next goal accomplished. So Bill Barr, way too much experience for that.
Right.
You know, he's not gonna fall for that one. So
Not at all.
yeah. So what you think? You think it's possible that this dude, jail or no jail for Trump? What you think?
Well, I've seen that he pleaded not guilty. Me personally, on that Georgia ticket, that situation in Georgia, the way that this DA and the legislators down there got that thing kind of tied together, to where it's a possibility that they could do something and kind of execute him in Georgia. It's possible. I'm gonna say it's about a 30 to 40% chance that they get that off. That's just my feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like right now, based on looking at the political landscape, I think that it's a big reach, and it's kind of like a way for the opposing side, the Democrats, to kind of get rid of Trump. Because, I mean, you're looking at where Trump, I don't know, we had talked about this, he's already gone as far as just black voters, just black votes. He's gone from a 6% to a 20% approval rating since the last election, and within a short span of time. And your boy Joe Biden, who is leading on the ticket, him and Kamala Harris have gone from a 81% down to like a 61% approval
Among black voters.
amongst black voters.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
My take on it, man, I think that, and I don't know, call me a conspiracy theorist, you know what I'm saying? But I think that it's even bigger than the Democratic and Republican Party. I think it's just the country as a whole. See, the United States is kind of taking a nice hit right now. I'm talking about on a world stage,
global stage,
on a global
right.
stage. And right now, you're kind of in that area where there's about to be a change of power, a change of world order. Now, when I say world order, I don't mean, Illuminati world order. I don't mean that. I mean, there's a world order as far as the economy. Who has the strongest economy?
currency.
And the currency. Who has the strongest currency? And what they do is they take the country with the strongest currency, because the way that they look at it is a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
So what they do is they say, okay, let's take the strongest currency, move them to the top, and then connect every other country's the currency to that currency in the order of the strength of the currency. And every 80, 100 years, they change that world order of currencies. And when they do that, it kind of, somebody goes out who was on the last at top, and then somebody else, they become the new world reserve currency, and every other currency connects to that one. So right now, the United States, they're in threat of being taken over by the China yuan, right? In order to be able to show that the United States don't deserve that top spot no more, they got to show that the United States, their currency is getting weak, their country is getting weak. For you to send the ex-president to jail adds to the narrative that America is on its way out, is going down. They're an embarrassment to the world stage.
That's a hell of a point.
I'm not sure if the United States government is going to allow themselves to look that way on the world stage by putting Donald Trump in jail.
I agree with you.
They just want him to stay out the White House. If they can do what they're doing in order to be able to keep that cat out the White House, I think that'll be enough for them.
So let me ask you this, because you just said you're not trying to take on the role of the conspiracy theorist.
Right.
But that's a hell of a point. And if that lines up with what we know in terms of the history of world orders, and we talking about, like you said, we're not fishing for the new world order stuff like everybody, the big, huge conspiracy. But we talking about on a world stage, on a global stage.
Yeah.
That would be a heck of a blow. Is it that, okay, we got the nationalists, we got the people that's America first, your boy Trump is supposed to be one. But the people that's behind that faction, that's willing to hang on to United States imperialism and America imperialism, Trump going to jail would be something that they not willing to see. They not going for it all.
No.
But is there a faction behind the curtain that's tied in with some other parties, rather it be, you know, how people talk about the IMF or some type of monetary system that's saying it's going to be better for all of us if China is out front.
Yeah.
And maybe we got a few plants inside of America, because your boy Trump done accused your boy Joe Biden of being one. You know what I'm saying? That's going to help us crash this thing into the ground.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? I'll tell you what, my dad used to always say that every lie got to have a little bit of truth in it. So, yeah, if it was totally no truth in it, and then it would be too unbelievable.
Right.
In order to sell it, you got to add some stuff to it. So, yeah, I do believe that there's forces that would rather have, because the thing is, everything is moving. When you look at the way that everything is moving in the country, we're going we dumping natural gas and liquid, you know, petroleum. And we going all the way to, you know, energy, clean energy, and that type of thing. That whole movement, the environment. You hear those things, and 10 of the top 10 energy companies in the world, they all in China. Wow. So if the United States, you got to ask yourself a question, and this ain't no, you know, this is just common sense. This is just common economics. In 2018, we took over as the #1 leader of oil and gas, natural gas in the world. It was people like Saudi Arabia that was getting their oil from us. So now we're #1 in the world. We take over. Everybody else been eating off of oil for generations and generations and generations.
Right.
Now all of a sudden we take over as #1 and everybody's getting their oil from us, and we decide to get out the oil game.
Out the oil game.
That didn't really make a whole bunch of sense to me.
Not at all.
But it has to be, you know, when you look at all of the people that's in positions of power who have relatives, sons, nephews, nieces, daughters that's sitting on the boards of some of these Chinese organizations, and then it starts to get suspicious.
It does.
You can't throw it out and say that's total conspiracy, and the conspiracy ain't nothing but 2 or more people working towards a certain event with somebody in there not knowing that they being worked against. That's all a conspiracy is. Don't make it seem like if you call it a conspiracy and then all of a sudden it ain't true. No, you can be conspired against in a big way.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we're gonna take a quick break. Recognize our sponsor, Upper Room Apparel, making it possible for us to do everything that we're doing with this podcast, getting this information out. So we'll do that, and we'll be right back. And when we come back, we want to kind of jump into Larry Elder.
Okay, yep.
Black Conservatives in America.
Yes, sir.
And the Uncle Tom, Doc. Let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll be right back in just 1 second.
Perfect balance of streetwear and luxury proves we're just built different. The brand's DNA celebrates who we are, and is unapologetic in our cultural evolution. It's fueled by the aspirational motto and brand mantra, the Upper Room, where great minds meet. Walk with me.
Let's bring together every hood and every city, every railroad. Real is rare, and it's that Upper Room Apparel. Meaning of the minds, and it ain't nothing but love. Great minds think alike, 2 brains better than one. You got my back, I got your front. Forever solid, it's in us we trust. Might not come overnight, before you walk, you crawl. United we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, divided we fall.
All right, y'all, we back on the spot. Kareem Prim, Damian Ware. Dame, let's talk about Larry Elder. Tell me a little bit about what you got on him.
Larry Elder. So a couple years back, kind of dove in and came across some videos, some information with your boy Larry Elder, man, who, from my understanding, Larry Elder was like a radio personality at one time, radio talk show host. On the social media, well, not really social media, but on the YouTube vein, I think Larry Elder, to me, in my eyes, from what I saw, was looked at as kind of like a Uncle Tom.
Right.
He didn't fit well in the narratives of the black community.
Makes black people feel real uncomfortable.
Real uncomfortable. Said some some stuff that I felt like was real, and we probably really need to hear, but we wasn't really feeling his narrative.
Not really ready for him, or
not ready for him at all.
And not ready for his delivery.
Not ready for his delivery at all either.
All right, so yeah, running for the Republican Party, presidential candidate for 2024. What do you think his chances is?
I think he, based on the landscape of what they got on the ticket of the Republican Party, I like Elder. You know, I don't know if he's got as much momentum as your boy Tim Scott or Vivek, you know, or I don't know how much momentum Mike Pence got, you know, but I'm looking towards the candidates that's a little bit younger. I think he might have a chance, but I ain't too sure.
I'll tell you what, man. Did you see him on the Breakfast Club?
I did not. Who said you was talking about
man,
that?
Every time I think about it, man, I laugh because he barbecue chicken. DJ Envy, Charlemagne the God, and his one sister, I gotta look her name up, Teslin Figaro.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Have you ever heard of the term nigga wake up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seems to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation. Yeah, I'm just saying, but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say, think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black? Wow.
When you look at talk radio, talk radio, not in the black community, but outside the black community, it used to be this way across the board, but it used to be journalists, people who was into television, that type of thing. They would do side jobs, radio hosts, go on president on radio shows, but it really came from a journalistic standpoint, a very journalistic background. And so journalists, they always have people who give them tips. They would have to investigate it. It was all investigative, and you had to be backing it up somewhere, shape, or form. Had to be some data somewhere to back it up.
We don't like that.
And the thing is, fast forward, in recent years, they took in black radio, this just happened in black radio, not necessarily across the board, but they took all of the journalists off talk radio host shows and they replaced them with comedians.
Wow.
Okay, Tavis Smiley and all of those cats, done. Got them out of there. When was the last time you seen Tavis Smiley?
Right, it's been a minute.
Replaced them with Ricky Smiley.
Wow. D.L.
Hughley. Steve Harvey, these type of cats.
His nephew,
Tommy.
Yeah.
Funny.
Right.
Entertaining, but the information, the thing that falls off is the need to back what you're saying up with information and data that is lowered. The standard is lowered.
Wow.
As a result of it, as a community, we don't get data that we can use. We get data that's funny. We get stuff that entertains us.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun.
Right.
But as far as getting information and being an informed public, that fell off when they made that change.
Wow.
So you can tell the way that the Breakfast Club
Right.
approached it. Their approach was based in this new comedian gotcha moment, make everybody laugh. It's like playing the dozens in the black community like we would do. And yeah, you playing the dozens, it didn't have to be real.
Right.
It didn't have to be
That's
factual.
funny.
It just had to be funny.
Right.
And it seemed like these gotcha moments, Larry Elder, he's the type of cat that data is what
That drives you.
it drives him.
Yeah.
So there were situations to where he would be, okay, I hear what you're saying, but what's the data that backs that up?
Yeah,
And you have to justify believing what you believe
That's
and what
it.
you're saying.
That's him.
You know, you making some major accusations, and then no, that's major what you just said.
Right.
Where's the data that backs
Where's
that
the
up?
data?
Because you don't just have a license to just say stuff because that's how you feel.
Right.
You have to be able to back that data up, and man, he was just slicing them cats up. It was really, really bad. It was
what was
a
old girl doing?
She was being very destructive to the point to where Charlemagne looked at Larry Elder and was like, "This is why you don't like talking to black women." I'm not sure if she really took it that way, but to me, it was almost like that was an insult to black women as a whole.
That's the second time I've seen her. Well, that's the second time, because I didn't get to catch that one with Larry Elder, but
Right.
she was on there when they brought your boy Vivek Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy,
on there.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And she did the same thing, an emotional attack, cutting in on him, shutting him down,
Dismissive,
dismissive,
disrespectful.
degrade, just totally disrespected his service to humanity. And tried to make it like, oh, you're not student council. Was you the head of student council? This dude done come up with medicines that actually helped people with certain health problems where it was life threatening.
Wow.
And your boy DJ Envy cut my man Ramaswamy off so that she could talk.
I don't know, man. The Breakfast Club, man. I'm starting to. I don't really watch them as much as I used to watch them, but them cats is kind of becoming a little bit more suspect to me every day. So, like I say, okay, Uncle Tom documentary, Larry Elder, Uncle Tom documentary. You checked it out. What you think?
Man, that was a heck of a documentary. I think anybody that have not seen that Uncle Tom documentary, you gotta go watch that, man.
Uncle Tom documentary. Check out the Uncle Tom documentary. They got him on. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
For free. Part 1 is free. Part 2, I think you can rent it for like $4 or something like that. But both of them are worth watching. It kind of, like I said, I think that the black conservative movement is a movement within the Republican Party that is not necessarily connected to Trump.
Right.
When you hear people vote Republican, it's almost like you're a Trump supporter.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's the same.
No.
I think that the black conservative movement is going to outlast Trump for sure.
Definitely.
Just real quick, I had a definition of here. What is a black conservative? Because there might be people out there, especially if you're not in religious circles or whatnot, you may not be familiar. But they say black conservatism is a political and social philosophy that emphasizes traditionalism, patriotism, which you don't really hear when it comes to black folks.
Nah.
Traditionalism, patriotism, self-sufficiency, and strong cultural and social conservatism within the context of the black church.
Exactly.
Read that again. Black conservatism is a political and social philosophy that emphasizes traditionalism, patriotism, self-sufficiency, and a strong cultural and social conservatism within the context of the black church. In the United States, often, but not exclusively, associated with the Republican Party. So it's almost like when you're conservative, you automatically lean towards the Republican Party.
Right.
But it's within the confines or the context of the black church. These are kind of getting back to the things that we were supposedly had believed in the ways that we lived before the New Deal, before the Civil Rights Movement, before all of these things that happened that kind of made us a little bit more the protesters and that type of thing. We was a little bit more self-sufficient. So as a black conservative and a black conservative, they really state a case for black conservatism. I'm not sure. What's your take on it? On just the whole black conservative movement?
I often ask the question, when you look at the policies or you look at the values, let's put it that way, of the black community.
Okay.
How did we become so democratic in the way that we vote, when typically all of our values, from the black church to the traditionalism, the conservatism, and how we live, lines up with black conservatism, or conservatism, period. It lines up with what Republican values are. Let me ask you this, since you touched on it with your boy FDR and the New Deal.
Right.
We're talking about 1933 to 39?
Okay.
What political party was your boy FDR from?
See, this is interesting, man. This is interesting. And you must have been in my head while I was taking my notes. Because that's I got it right here. It's so crazy. Okay, during Reconstruction, black voters began to align themselves with the Republican Party. That was during Reconstruction. This is just after slavery. The United States, the government was trying to do something to, quote unquote, balance the playing field. All right, we know y'all been taking the stripping for all this time. We was wrong, but without saying we wrong, we're just gonna go ahead and say, okay, we're gonna start doing some things and putting some things in place in order to balance the playing field. Under Franklin Delano Roosevelt's administration, during his first 2 terms, civil rights legislation was not passed. However, New Deal programs, which were relief from the crash in 1929 and the Depression, the country during that time was going through we was taking a stripping just because of the Depression.
Right.
So the New Deal wasn't necessarily targeted towards black people. Everybody in the country was taking a stripping. So there had to be some programs in order to be able to try to create relief for people, particularly the farmers and people like that. So this led to the black vote being more split between down the middle, because people wanted that relief. And they thought, okay, if they pass in relief for the citizens and we're now considered citizens, we want that relief. So as that happened with Roosevelt, I believe he was a Democrat.
Right.
With him doing that, not necessarily for black people, but for the citizenry as a whole. Right. Black people said, okay, we can get in on that relief if we help this cat do what he's trying to do. And you start seeing the split. In 1960, the Kennedy-Johnson campaign promoted civil rights as the central issue, and during their administration, they passed anti-discrimination legislation, gaining more black votes. This was the legislation that Kennedy and Johnson put out. Since then, the Democratic Party has held the majority of black votes in America, although recent polling has found, and this goes back to what you was talking about, that the percentage of African Americans who identify as Democrats has declined in recent years, from 75% during Obama's presidency to 67% in 1920. These are some numbers, and this leads to you said 20%?
Right now?
Right now?
20%.
Okay, 20%. Interesting thing. In 2008, this was the first time President Obama ran as president in 2008.
Okay.
4% of black people voted Republican. In 2012, after President Obama had been in office for 4 years and was running for re-election, 6% of black people voted Republican.
So it went up.
It went up.
During Obama.
Wow.
Okay.
In 2016, with Trump running, it was 8%.
Yes.
It went up again.
Yeah.
There's something that was happening from President Obama running the first time to him running the second time to now the election after him. Black people are voting more and more Republican every time, from 4% to 6% to 8%. In 2020, 12% of black people voted Republican. And you said those numbers is even bigger today?
The numbers now in terms of support for Trump, I think it's around versus Biden, of the black vote. 20%.
The black vote.
21%.
Interesting thing. Because you have to ask yourself the question, are black people fed up with the Democratic Party?
That's
are we
it.
fed up?
Right.
Interesting thing is that in those numbers, they're saying that the vote among black women are remaining virtually the same. The people that's leaving the Democratic Party are young people and black men.
Right.
What you got to say about that?
They calling that the Blexit. They calling that the Blexit.
The black exit of the
Black
Democratic
exit
Party.
of the Democratic Party. I'm just gonna go back to two things that you touched on in terms of speaking towards that. So you talked about the New Deal and the FDR thing.
Right.
So we now know, and I believe it was talked about in that documentary, that up until that moment where we felt like there was something in there for us with that New Deal,
Right.
the blacks were Republicans.
Right.
Blacks were mainly Republicans. The other thing that they don't talk about that I think they spoke on in that documentary, that like you talked about in the 60s with the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Most of the legislation, there were more Senate Republicans that was responsible for the passing of legislation to basically influence and execute civil rights legislation in favor of blacks. Most of that voting power and most of that legislature came from the Republican Party.
Yeah, it kind of confuses me a little bit because the whole concept of how we're told that black people became Democrats is that there was this big switch.
Right.
It was the big switch. Black people, the racist white people went to the Republican Party.
Oh, we just fell right into this.
Oh my God, I didn't even want to talk about this, dude. But it's just such an interesting thing. It's just
Right.
I'm perplexed.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
I'm perplexed. The racist white people in the Democratic Party, who was the ones that came up with the Ku Klux Klan and Jim Crow and black codes and all of that, they all of a sudden had packed their bags up and went and joined the Republican Party. And the Republicans said, well, we don't want to be over here with y'all. Since y'all coming over here, we're going to go over to the Democratic Party. And there was this big switch. Watching that Uncle Tom documentary, I'm really confused. And I said to myself, man, let me find some evidence, because they saying that the big switch never happened.
Right.
They was talking about Al Gore. Now we know Al Gore. He was the vice president for the junior. He was vice president under Clinton.
Clinton, yep.
His father, Senior, was this dude was in the Senate, right?
Yep.
And when they was trying to pass civil rights legislation, they said that him and his colleagues moved beds into the chambers and slept there. They are responsible for the longest filibuster in the history of this country.
Wow.
In order to try to keep the civil rights legislation from happening. This cat and his fellow Democrats was trying to keep that thing from going down. But if they was supposed to have, if there was this big switch, and then he should have left and went to the Republican Party.
Right.
Because he was like the head dude trying to keep that. Okay, but he died a Democrat. And then his son is a Democrat. So them cats is still there. I'm confused. I'm not even gonna. I kind of suspended it to make a decision on it until I got a chance to do some more research. We'll probably come back with that conversation at a later date when I get some more clarity on it. But I'll tell you what, man, it's confusing. This whole exit and big switch, it's looking like
it never happened.
It's looking like it never happened, but. Then we got to explain. Now the Democratic Party got some answering, got some questions to answer. You know what I'm saying, to help us understand. You know, but to me, I'll tell you what it did though. It confirmed to me that black people as a whole, our loyalty wasn't just because we was black and just because it was the Democratic Party.
Right.
The split, when we start splitting, it was based on the New Deal. This was information and data that we was using to say, okay, what's in our best interest?
Wow.
These are interests that, as a people,
policy,
we can benefit from. It was policy that made us split. It wasn't because of racism. It wasn't because of this, that, and the other. It was policy. And then civil rights happened. It was more of a split. It was
Right.
policy that made that decision. So 2024, the question is, what are the policies that each party is putting out there? And then we'll make our decision as to how we're going to vote based on what policies are put out there to say, okay, how, because it's looking like as a people, we're being put on the back burner. It's looking like, love my Latino brothers and sisters, but it looks like they're saying we have a new minority
yes.
in the party that we're going to cater to. We're not necessarily listening to y'all. We're going to
Right.
make sure that we get these Latinos because they're the fastest growing population in the country.
Right.
They're the largest minority in the country.
Right.
Black people are no longer the majority minority in the United States. So,
And then look at that now in that documentary, your girl Candace Owens talked about the liberals being,
and you know, black people don't want to hear
They
nothing.
don't wanna hear nothing
Candace
about
Owens is
Candace
talking
Owens.
about. Okay.
but
Right. Yeah. As soon as you said Candace Owens, 'cause I'm still trying to get. The verdict is still out with me and Candace. But go ahead.
But you go back to that time where you talking about a time where versus now, just like you gave the analogy with the radio and the
Right.
talk radio, all the emotion versus the actual facts and the data. So
Right.
it looks like at one point in time when we really, as like your boy Killer Mike said in that documentary where we was dominating, he said the black vote was Republican,
Right.
but it was policy. It was led and driven
It
by
was driven.
policy, not
Right.
emotion.
Absolutely.
Now we got this whole thing where we more driven by emotion, and we so driven by this emotional thing with racism that it seems like this same party uses that as a mechanism. Here's the crazy thing though. Like you said, we being replaced with a new minority.
Right.
Why in the data does it show that the same where there was the creation of the welfare system, they destroyed the black community, destroyed the black nuclear family. Fatherlessness was more of a terrorist than racism itself, and they talked about that.
Yeah.
Why is there now data showing that in the Latino community, there's more birth out of wedlock and now more damage being done to the nuclear family in the Latino community
Yeah.
as they start representing the new minority?
I had said to somebody about this a couple of weeks ago. I said, you're about to witness the same thing that happened to the black family. You're about to witness it happen in the Latino community.
Wow.
I can't remember the context of the conversation that we was having.
Wow.
But it was showing that the grass is not always greener on the other side. You know what I'm saying? So I think the same thing is going to happen because they're trying to get the same benefits, and they're being embraced by, you know, let's face it, if those people who are migrating to the country, they're falling into the Democratic Party. They're going to be casting Democratic votes.
Right.
Best believe, and it's all political in the United
all
States.
political.
If those people were coming in and long term was anticipated that they would cast Republican votes, then you would see Democrats that would be hard on the border. And Republicans would be trying to get them to come in.
That's so true, man. That's it, man.
It's policy.
Yeah.
So we just have to get a little bit more smarter on what our position is. You know, we don't know our position, and then that's okay.
Right.
But you can't stay in that mode
Right.
to where we have no clue. We're a year and some months outside of the next election. And are we going to let that election come by and basically repeat
Right.
the same thing that's been happening in our voting history
a hell of a
for the
point.
since the 60s? You know, you're talking about, we'll be able to watch it. We're going to see
Right.
the Latino community in it change. You figure before the 60s,
Right.
80% of black children in this country was born to mothers,
85.
two-parent households.
Yeah.
Two-parent households. Now, only 25%
Yep.
of black children are born to mothers who are wed.
Wow.
Only 25%.
Yeah.
75% born to single mothers who are not wed. So if we sit and watch this happen to them, hopefully it'll be proof to say, okay, all right, well, something's in the Kool-Aid right
Right.
here. And we need to make some, just pay attention. We need to pay attention.
Definitely.
So, okay, front runners in the Republican Party. The debate, did you get a chance to see the debate?
I did.
The winner of the debate by far, your boy Donald didn't show up,
Right.
45.
Right. Didn't show up.
Teflon Don, right? Didn't show up to the debate. He said that it wasn't worth his time. He said he's over 50, 60 percentage points ahead of the next closest cat, and it's just not worth his time to be able to take time to go do the debate. You know what I'm saying? Y'all really not on my level.
Right.
He says people, Chris Christie, these cats don't even need to be on the stage. He's not even going to come to the stage until they get off the stage. So, in typical Donald Trump fashion, he just basically dismissed everybody. So what that did was it gave a platform for cats like Ron DeSantis
Right.
and them cats, because DeSantis, everybody wants his position.
Right.
His position is, if people lose faith and confidence that Donald Trump can be the nominee, if you look and see, because they're saying, yeah, he's the most popular person in the party, but we can't win a general election with Donald Trump representing the party. So we need to choose somebody else. Right now, DeSantis is in that place
Right.
to be that somebody else. So all of the rest of the people who are debating, they're debating to try to get that spot.
Spot. Right.
What do you think as a result of the debate? What did you see? Did he solidify that spot, or is that spot slipping away from him?
I think that spot is slipping away from him.
Go ahead.
And so I've saw some, I watched the debate. I think your boy Vivek Ramaswamy
Right.
made a lot of stride during that debate. For one, you saw some actual youth movement in the Republican
He's only
Party.
38.
He's only 38. Smart dude, very in tune. One of the things that I saw was that he was actually in a video where he had went into a barbershop in Chicago. So his campaign, and I heard him say it, is he's going where the Republican Party has never gone, has not shown any
Be specific.
footprints.
He went to a barbershop.
So he was in a black barbershop,
black barbershop.
in Chicago, in inner city Chicago, and that's his thing. He's going into the black community, which he said the Republican Party has not shown any interest, and they have not done so in a long time. And so I think he gonna make some traction there. He also, got the America First agenda. He's technically he's an American from a foreign place,
Right.
But he's hard and tough on the illegal immigration.
Okay.
So I think that he lines up well with Trump, and I think that's going to be a good boost for him. I like your boy Senator Tim Scott.
Tim Scott.
But I think Tim Scott, I saw him gaining some traction in some interviews because he's appealing to all different types of people, white, black, but he also is preaching that the left weaponizes racism. So I don't know how far he gonna get with the black vote from that, but hey man, I don't think Pence gonna be around.
Pence is done.
Yeah.
Look, they haven't forgiven Pence for the January 6th. They thought that he should have jumped out there, rescued Donald, and it should have been a done deal. They look at him as a Benedict Arnold
Right,
traitor
yeah.
to the conservative movement. Pence is trying to hang in there. His suit was kind of big on him, which that ain't got nothing to do with whether a person should be president or not. But when I see how big his suit was, I was like, he's done. You got all this stuff going on, and then that suit.
And they paying attention to that too.
It's got to be some people who's paid. Back to Tim Scott though. Tim Scott, what do you think about? Because this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a lot of talk on Tim Scott being put on the Donald Trump ticket in order to be able to get Donald Trump some. Because in the North, people understand Trump.
Right.
You go into New York, like you go into other parts of the country, the farther south you get, the more you start hearing about how harsh Trump is and
Right.
his tone and this, that,
Right.
and the other. But the farther you get up north and towards New York, they understand that because that's how they communicate. So, but you get into the South to have somebody like Tim Scott, going
right.
to the South. He's from what, South
South Carolina boy, yep.
Yeah, and he's black.
Right.
He's super conservative.
Yep.
He doesn't even communicate in a combative
No.
type way. He's got that Southern
Yep.
about him in a very genuine way.
Yep.
They're saying with him on a Trump ticket, it's almost unbeatable.
So you saying Trump and Tim Scott?
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that is a strategy and a plan that they are executing, because you could see him as he's going on in his footprint across South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He appeals to Southern whites, and his story with his mom and his family appeals to Southern blacks.
Yeah, single
Him
parent
and-
home.
Yeah. Him and Trump together, that'd be a lights out ticket.
It'll be a lights out ticket, but the thing is, but are they going to be able to pull any votes from the middle? Because Trump is so extreme to the right.
Mm-hmm.
In order to win, you got those cats.
Right.
You got the Trumpers. You
Right.
got them cats. They not going to change their vote. They going to
Right.
vote for you under any circumstances. Nothing that Trump can do in order to be able to lose that
Right.
vote. You can't win a general election. It's just you pull some out the middle. You got
From
the
the middle.
extreme left and you got the extreme right. But the people that need to be fought over is the people that's in the middle. What is that ticket going to do in order to be able to pull people out the middle? I'm not sure with Trump out front. Me personally, I'm not sure if Trump can win. I think he got him the first time. He snuck him the first time.
Right.
They didn't see him coming. The people that seen him coming didn't respect him enough to look
ready
at him
for
as a threat. Hillary was looking at him like, whatever,
Right.
dude. You're not me. They didn't see him coming. He snuck him. I don't know if they're going to let that happen again.
It remains to be seen, but I think with Tim Scott, with your boy Tim Scott on that ticket, I think he gonna pull a nice portion of that middle. Mm-hmm. I think that's what he's there for.
Okay.
Because of his story, because of this we see this new return to black conservatism.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he kind of fit that description there. So that we'll see how that works.
After the debate, the three candidates in the national polls in the Republican primary, they got number 1 is Donald Trump, even though he didn't debate. Number 2 is Ron DeSantis. Number 3, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Mm-hmm.
All right? All of whom are against giving more support to Ukraine in the war against Russia if they become president. None of them are going to continue that war.
Mm-mm.
What's your thoughts on that? Is that something that's more of a liberal Democratic support push?
I think it is. I think it is more of a liberal Democratic push. From what I've seen, I think that a lot of Americans are kind of locked in. Trump has strong policies, man, and a lot of Americans are locked in on that America First policy. They don't want to deal with the whole we at war, threat to war with Ukraine. People are watching this narrative with Ukraine and Russia and China, and they kind of don't want to keep hearing about this World War III stuff, man.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be one of the main tools that they're going to use to kind of pull back them votes from the current, incumbent as far as Biden. I feel like that's possibly why Biden has lost a lot more support outside of just the inflation and rise in gas and stuff like that.
Food.
Yeah, food inflation. I think that's also playing a part too. So, yeah.
Well, the number one issue they're saying as it relates to foreign policy is Ukraine. That's the number one issue. So, I watched some of the people that they was doing. They were sitting and talking to some of the voters while the debate was going on, and then after it was over, they kind of went into their homes and it was asking them questions. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, even though for the most part, you're talking about the Republican Party after all, so they were saying that none of them had heard anything that broke their support in Trump, but they had second and third people who they would support, but their primary loyalty was to Donald Trump. But one of the things that people would say that kind of came out, it was like an underlying communication thing that was communicated, was that it was refreshing to be able to see a debate where they got a chance to actually hear the issues, that if Trump had been there, it would have been more of a show. That it's almost like they say, yeah, it would have been a lot of noise.
Yeah.
It's like on one hand, they admitting that they don't want, that they tired of Trump and that they don't think that he's a good thing.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, it's almost like they are extremely loyal to that cat.
Right.
I'm like, wait a second, that's a total contradiction as to what you was just saying, but it's almost like they didn't see no contradiction in that at all.
Right. The noise, I think the noise, as we know, is a turnoff, a big turnoff. But I think with your boy, with the approval rating sinking for Joe on inflation, Ukraine, food, droughts and all of this stuff that's really scary to American people, I think they would rather put up with some of the noise than put up with your boy, man. Your boy Trump done termed your boy now. He ain't even Sleepy Joe Biden no more. He calling this cat Crooked Joe.
Crooked Joe, he got to pull that in, because you could tell that right there is designed in order to be able to, go back into that whole Ukrainian thing, pay for play, pay off with some of these Japanese and Chinese countries. Where are you getting the money, Joe? Where's this money coming from?
Right.
What did you do to make them write you a check for? So
why we running up under Ukraine, helping them so much right now?
Well, I heard somebody say something. I thought it was so interesting. I was like, man, people have the craziest, the widest range of perspective, and they were saying that they think that the whole point of the United States being involved in the Ukrainian war is the payoff for the cover-up of the Biden, the Biden, what do they call it? They made it seem like the Biden crime family and their workings with Ukraine. I was like, man, these people are so colorful, man. Super colorful in their approach to it. But
that's a lot.
Okay, which brings us to Joe. You got Joe, Hillary, as we close this thing out. You got Joe, Kamala Harris.
Right.
Can they win?
I think they still got a chance to win. I don't think that the Joe Biden approval ratings I don't think it's over and done with. I think once we see the results of what's going on with this legal stuff with your boy Trump, and as these debates go further and we start to see who's going to start shaking out at the end of the Republican Party, I think that's going to determine if people going to say, okay, we can accept the change, what may happen, if it's a new Republican cat that's going to come forward and maybe get on the ticket, or if it's going to be Trump. I think when they see what it's going to really look like down the end of the tunnel, that might determine whether or not if the support is going to continue to go south, or if the American people going to say, okay, we cool and we comfortable with Biden and Harris. We'll deal with the inflation or whatever have you, versus what was panning out at the end of the tunnel there for the Republicans. Okay,
so let me ask you this. Biden, by the time the election come around, he's going to be, 82, 83 years old or something like that? I'm not sure if that's an exaggeration. I really think that he's going to be like 82 or something like that. So with him being that old, now your vice president, whoever's the vice president, that's going to be a major piece, because now the likeliness that person may have to, in the event of the death of the president, that person might be your next president. So you almost have to look at the vice president as if you're looking and saying, can this person be president as well? What do you think about Kamala Harris? Do you think that people will be ready to accept her as not just somebody who is a token, because that's what people believe, is that she was just a token in order to be able to get black women votes, to appease black people in the last election, but now she would actually have to be able to perform. Do you think she's up to that?
I think that's going to be a problem. I think that's going to be a problem for the Democratic Party if it come down to, put it this way, because we know, like you said, that age thing is real. He's 82. If that starts to become more of the highlight if the other side start highlighting that this is what could probably happen, that if something happened to Biden, Kamala Harris, which everybody that know politics and know the presidential office know that that's possible.
Yeah.
But the more attention they draw to that, it's going to force voters to have to actually really consider that, go beyond their emotion and dive into the logical part of their head and really consider that. That might be a problem for them. They might lose off of that.
Okay.
They ain't ready. America ain't ready for that.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we got Vivek Ramaswamy, right? He's the new name that's been jumped out. Tim Scott.
Yeah.
He's the forerunner. He's kind of making his way up to the point, but not necessarily as somebody who can be at the top of the ticket, but somebody who might be with Trump. DeSantis looked like he's losing ground. I don't think that he accomplished what he should have accomplished with Trump not being on the stage. It's only going to get worse once Trump gets on the stage because he's going to consume all of the air of the whole stage. That's going to be interesting and entertaining. Like I said, even if he wins the nominee on the Republican Party, not sure if he can win in a general election. It's more of a thing of whether the Democrats are going to lose the election more so than it is Trump can win and the Republicans can win. I think it's the election is the Democrats to lose, and I think that they got to make sure that that don't happen by making some very, very smart decisions, making sure even if they might make some changes in the ticket, even if you're going to have Joe on there, he's the name people know. I'm not sure if they might keep that change or keep the ticket the same or make some changes, but we'll see what happens there. As things move forward with the people that come forth on the Democratic side, we'll do another of these and then we'll kind of give like an outlook on what's going on the Democratic side of the ticket. And until then, man, hey, the Uncle Tom documentary, gotta watch that. Got to watch that Uncle Tom documentary, if not just to just inform yourself. See, a lot of people don't know nothing about the book. A lot of people never read the book Uncle Tom.
Okay.
The way that Uncle Tom, the term is used nowadays, is no way near connected to what the character in the book was. The term Uncle Tom was the 1950s, 1960s version of cancel culture. So if you was doing something as a black person that the greater society didn't want you to do, in order to be able to break your black support, they would call you an Uncle Tom.
Wow.
Interesting perspective, man. And you basically was canceled back when somebody hit you with that level.
Wow.
You know, you're talking about cats like Booker T. Washington,
Right.
who was educating black people, teaching entrepreneurship, started Tuskegee University for the purpose of teaching agriculture, teaching trades to different people, and then not teaching them in a way to where you went out and got a job, but teaching entrepreneurship to where you could actually go out and start your own business.
Right.
This cat was doing that, whereas W.E.B. Du Bois was kind of moving people towards NAACP, protesting, get in the streets, let's kind of make our voice known. Booker T. Washington was saying, okay, y'all go ahead out and protest and try to get the government to do stuff. But meanwhile, we're going to go over here. We're going to create some jobs. We're going to build a community. We're going to create an economy. We're going to start black real estate investment groups, and we're going to start buying up places that turned into Harlem and all those type of places because of proteges from Booker T. Washington's school of thought that went in there buying real estate, whereas there was no black people in Harlem. Harlem became black renaissance because of the investment of Booker T. Washington. So when they start calling Booker T. Washington the Uncle Tom, it was to get black people to buy more into the idea of protest more so than self-reliance, self-independence, self-education, and that type of thing. So they didn't want that. That wasn't the move back then. They wanted people into that whole NAACP protest mode, and they start calling Booker T. a Uncle Tom, with the masses not really understanding what was happening to him. When Booker T was called an Uncle Tom, black folks said, okay, we done with Booker T. And that broke that whole movement. But it's just interesting, that documentary. I think people should check it out, man.
Gotta check that documentary.
Check that out. And that's it, man. Anything you got left?
Nah, man, that's it, man.
Trump 2024, keep your eye on that cat, man. I don't know. It's like I said, you know, we'll see what happens with him. Like I say, I don't think he got a chance, but it's America, man, so anything can happen. Anything can happen. So that's it for us. We leaving you from the spot, and we'll check up with y'all in a minute.
Peace.
Peace.